Hey everybody, welcome back to the Salt channel. Today we're going to be talking about the GoPro Hero 8 Black and why we chose this action camera for our primary camera when it comes to fishing. We originally had the GoPro Hero 7 Black, and that one we used for a while, but we upgraded to the GoPro Hero 8 Black because we really like the 7, we really like the format, we really like the ease of use, the big touchscreen in the back, and the accessories that are just everywhere for these cameras. So for the most part, we are mounting this camera and on a chesty, and that point of view is what, if you look on YouTube, that's what mostly everyone is doing. A lot of people probably put it on their head, but I find that very uncomfortable. The chesty, you could wear it all day, you don't even know it's there. You eventually just forget about it and it doesn't feel uncomfortable. So while it's mounted on the chest, we usually have it at 24 frames, 4K, and I like the super wide view. A lot of people use the wide view, but the super wide view just gives you a lot more area that it covers, especially when you have your pole, our 7.6 poles. Sometimes they get cut out when you're just on wide and you kind of miss that hook set. So it kind of gives you more of a real estate vertically and horizontally. And horizontally. Why does it sound so weird? Horizontally. Horizontally. Gives you more real estate vertically and horizontally so that you really don't miss any of the fish jumping, or if you're kind of tilted to the side. We like the super view because you're usually fishing angled and the camera still pick up the rod in front of you, the line in front of you if you want to see the line jump if a fish gets it. It's very forgiving when it comes to missing the action that you're trying to catch. On the head, it's very uncomfortable. When you have this mounted on your forehead with the band, you're sweating, you're wearing a hat, you're wearing sunglasses, you're moving your head constantly, the camera is just going from left to right constantly. When you have it on your body, you're moving less, so it's more of still of a footage. The other point of view that we've done once is for slow-mo purposes because I couldn't really mount, I'm fishing by myself, so I couldn't mount the GoPro on my chest and get we did the slow-mos on the reels and how they react when you're casting out, and it was really hard to get a close-up on the reel, trying to reel it out, put it right next to it. So what I ended up doing was mounting it on my forehead with the GoPro official headband, and for that it worked fine. I was able to cast out, put my head to it, and I was able to see how the line reacts. And then I ended up using my iPhone and watching the preview of it and then making sure that it was good, and then I would go on to the next one. And I left it on my forehead for the 45 minutes that it took me to do all this stuff. The one problem that we ran into, even with the 7, wind noise, even breathing, it sounded like I was having a goddamn heart attack every time I had this on my chest. It sounded like I was out of breath. And even though what I remember that day fishing, I was just normally fishing, didn't really feel like I was over like breathing heavily or anything like that. And then when I went home, watched the footage, it's like but it's because these things are really, the microphones are really exposed. So what I ended up doing was buying these dead cats that were about 10 bucks for a pack of 20. Drastically reduced that. We're gonna link this down below. The only problem that I have with these is that they fall off quickly. They're not the best solution, but they're a solution that we found that works great for what we need this for. So one of the most expensive accessories that we've bought for the GoPro that we thought was going to help a lot, especially with blowing out certain angles when you're facing the sun or it's really bright outside, was the Polar Pro ND filters. It's the 8, the 16, and the 32. It was $79.99 on the GoPro website. It comes with this really nice attachment that's magnetic. The problem that we have with that is when you're trying to do the 120-degree rule, which is, you have your frame set at 24, your shutter at 48, 50. A cloud comes up, your screen goes black. The sun comes up too much, and you have say a N16, everything turns white. And when you have the GoPro mounted down here, you're not constantly looking if it's, how the picture looks. You're fishing. The ND filters work for a certain look. So if it's a really sunny day, you want to use the N32, leave it on there, leave the shutter and ISO and all that stuff at automatic, and you should be fine. and it should help you a little bit with the reflection on the water, with the actual sun coming through the clouds. When you go into like under a tree, or when the cloud cover comes over, it'll help balance all that out. But for the purpose that we thought we were going to use this for, it's impossible, because you're not constantly checking, oh wait, let me see how that looks. Was it a waste of money? Maybe, because we're not utilizing it the way we wanted to, but I'm sure they're going to come in handy when we're trying to do more specific B-roll shots with this, or something more action focused, where it's a 15-second video, you know. So $80 for that, I rather would have spent it on a nice microphone than on the Polar Pro. But they work. It'll work just as a, like, you know, you put your glasses on, it'll work just like that, where it'll make the footage a little bit less overexposed. I mean, you could do that with just settings on the GoPro, but if you want to just slap something on, put this on your chest, you kind of see, well, today's going to be super sunny. Let me throw in the 32. Today's going to be somewhat sunny. Or you're shooting later in the afternoon, 8 or 16 will just suffice. People usually use ND filters for, like an expensive cameras like the one we're shooting on, is if you're in a very bright environment and you want to get that cinematic look and you want to shoot at 24 frames, you put an ND filter on, mess with the shutter, you put it at 48 or 50, depending on, you know, if your camera could do either one, and you get the more smooth cinematic look. So now that you have your footage, what do you do with it? I think the one thing that everyone's gonna run into when you first get the GoPro is, okay, you recorded your 128 gigabyte with 4 hours of footage. Well, now that you have your footage, what do you do with it? So I'm gonna assume a lot of people are gonna be using your iPhone for editing. I think the easiest way, and if you have the money and if you have the equipment and if you have the knowledge, I definitely think that you should be taking your SD card out, copying the files over to an SSD, erasing it from the micro SD, and then just starting over with your micro SD inside the GoPro every time. That way you have the footage for later where you could edit it. If it's a personal use, you could just have it as a digital copy of what you've done, say for vacation. But editing wise, I think a lot of people are probably gonna lean towards just using their iPhone, especially now with the 11 Pro and even the 11s, they have the iMovie on there and they have enough power behind it to kind of use, you know, simple editing tools like cutting and sound effects, or even like a title. So the route that we ended up doing was a USB-C hub. We find it a lot easier for us to share footage and to be able to just utilize the SD cards or the micro SD cards the way they're supposed to. So we take it out, we download the footage onto an SSD. Obviously, you know, our MacBook Pros are just USB-C, so we had to buy a hub that has a micro SD and SD card reader, and we're downloading it onto an SSD and then we're editing off of that. But for the most part, I don't think people are gonna be doing that, especially for people who are just using this for a hobby, say a motorcycle, fishing, any type of vacation. I feel like most people are just gonna have the footage on the micro SD and just run it that way. But again, there's a lot of flexibility here where you could choose one or the other, but I feel like when you first get it, you're kind of gonna be lost saying, okay, well now my SD card is full. What do I do? You have to erase either the whole thing or you keep the whole thing. So I feel like it's definitely something you need to look ahead of and say, okay, well, once I record this, what am I gonna do with it and how am I gonna do that? Overall, GoPro Hero 8, do I recommend it for fishing or for any type of action cam? Absolutely. I mean, this is probably the best action cam that you could have, especially for the money. Everything now is right there. I mean, my friend over here, he wants one just to have one because they're very, very flexible. There's so many different areas where you could use this, say a motorcycle, say fishing, soccer. I feel like anything that you would want to record, you could have this on, just press record and just have it on and just go about your day. Now, as for the accessories that we've bought for it, I would definitely go with the Insignia, $50 at Best Buy. And it came with anything that you would possibly need. It came with a chesty, the head mount, a selfie stick, a tripod, buckles, and everything that you would possibly need for it. It came with a floaty for, you know, whatever. The other accessory that I would definitely recommend is something for wind reduction. If I could go back and do this all again, I would buy this first, the dead cats. I would buy the accessory kits, and I would buy, for sure, this is something we haven't covered, is batteries. Official GoPro charger, and I bought 2 batteries for it because the batteries on these things last for an hour. Most of the time when I go fish, I take a battery in my pocket, I take this with a 64 gig card, and I call it a day. Overall, I hope that you learned something with how to fish and how to use this when it comes to fishing. Hopefully you see some of the footage and you see, well, that kind of looks more of what I'm trying to get, or man, my voice or my breathing is heavy. What can I do? You know, I hope that's something that you learn with this video of how to mitigate a lot of the issues. Leave a comment below on if you think we did a good job with this video. All right, catch you guys later.